God is a good God, and I just love him. And sometimes we're not even ready to ask what we want from him, but he wants to give it to us despite us. And one of the stories that I love to share regarding that is what happened my first long-term trip in Japan. And we had mission teams coming in and out while I was staying at the church I was based out of. And one of the teams that came the first day, their leader mentioned that one of his legs was shorter than the other. So he'd been born with club feet. And for those of you that don't know what that is instead of your feet being born normal, they're born like this. And so or they're formed like this when you're born. And so because of that, he had surgery done, and something must have happened, and one of his legs ended up shorter than the other. And so anyways, when he said that, I was like, oh, we should pray for you. And he's like, yeah. And then the next day I was like, oh, we should pray for you. And he was like, yeah. And every day I would be like, oh, we should pray for you. And he was like, yeah. And one of the team members, his name is Zeke, and he had just recently started to believe in God, and he was super excited. And so I would share a bunch of stories. One day I was sharing a bunch of stories actually with him, and a lot of them were on healing, because I just wanted him to know like everything God can do. And he was like, oh, I'd love to see something like that. And I remember thinking, wouldn't it be so cool, God, if Zeke was there when Josh got healed? That happened to be New Year's Eve, and so that night we had a New Year's Eve party at the church, and we were worshiping through the night, and Josh, Zeke, and I were all in different parts of the church. So Josh was playing the drums on stage, Zeke was on one side of the church, and I was on the other, and this was like the entire night. And then somehow for like 5 minutes we're just standing right next to each other, and right then the pastor's daughter got up on stage and she said, I want you to get into groups of 2 or 3 and pray for each other. And I look at us and I'm like, oh my goodness, is this it, God? Is this when you're gonna heal Josh and Zeke is right here? And so I asked Josh, oh, what do you want prayer for? And he says a bunch of stuff, but it's not his leg. And I'm like, what about your leg? And he looked at me like, oh my goodness. And so he's like, okay, pray for my leg. And I'm like, yes. And so I tell Zeke to hold his legs, and I just tell him to pray that the leg comes out. And as he prayed, boom, 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 3 times, and it just came out, and both legs were completely fine, and he was totally healed. And later on, Josh was just telling me like the only reason he let me pray was because I kept bugging him, and he knew that I would never stop. And so he's like, let her just pray and get it over with. But he'd never expected God to heal him, and God did. And later on, so this was in Osaka that this happened, and later on I was in Tokyo a couple of months later, and somebody was telling me, yeah, we had this mission group come through, and this guy, his leg grew out, and he was sharing all about it. And I was like, oh, that happened at my church. But anyways, God is such a good God, and just know that he loves you. I mean, here's this guy, and he had gone 21 years with one leg shorter than the other, and he hadn't even bothered asking God, and he didn't even want to ask God to heal him, yet God wanted to heal him. And God put an anointing missionary in his life to do that. And then not only that, God saw Zeke's desire to see a healing, to participate in it, to see that, you know, the Bible is real, that God can do anything, and he got to be the one to pray to see it come out. So I hope this story encourages you. God bless.